Oh, man. Here we go back with another one.
Yes, sir. We are back, and this one is particularly special for your boy for multiple reasons. This is a big brother of mine.
Okay.
Haven't seen him for a long time. Long lost big brother,
Right.
but we've stayed in contact over the years.
Yeah.
A lot of what I do is because of what we did back in the days.
Wow.
And with no further ado,
Yeah.
shout out to a legend.
Yeah.
TJ freaking Supa Duper. TJ Supa in the building. What's good?
Yo, what's good? TJ Supa, RadioSupa, Rock Show, Super Music, all that beautiful stuff, man. Yo, I'm glad to be here, man. I'm glad to be here. It looks really crispy in here.
Thank you.
You know what I mean? I love being here. I love being here more than some of the other stations.
Yeah.
No, it's beautiful though. This is great, man. This is
I appreciate
a great
it.
situation.
I appreciate it. Yeah, so let's get into TJ Supa.
Right.
You know, obviously you have the flagship show.
Yeah.
RadioSupa.com.
Yeah.
An originator in the game.
Thank you.
When it comes to internet radio.
Right.
Let's talk about how that all began for you. How'd you get started in making that up?
Yo, man, a big salute, man. Yo, the radio situation came. I'll abridge leading up to how it happened because it was the reason that Radio Super got started, man. I originally had a long career in New York. I won't get into that right now, but after coming back, you know, and I was working on a music project here, and you know, I was putting the project together, and I noticed that there wasn't any real industry here. There wasn't like any label support or anything like that. So I'm putting this project together, and you know, and I had got this a path of ideas leading to, instead of just waiting for someone to come and put this project on, why don't you create the path to put your project on yourself? You know, so I put the project together, and I was putting a team together, and at the time, you know, it was a soundtrack for a film that I was working on. I put the soundtrack together, and I created a record label to be able to press the soundtrack and distribute the soundtrack and all that other stuff. So that path came. And I got that together, got the label started, got the project out. The project was on iTunes way before people's stuff was on iTunes. You know what I mean? Nice. And it was great. There was an artist that I started working with, and she already had kind of a little bit of a buzz. So we put an album project together for her. And we got to the point of releasing that album project. We landed like a physical distribution deal for her where they put it out in some places and stuff like that. But the issue that I started running into was there wasn't a way to push or promote these projects, you know, in a way that was going to be consistent enough that you need if you're going to put out a project. You know, getting stuff on the air, like on FM at the time, was like winning the lottery, not like, you know, the jackpot, but like, you know, the pick 3 or something like that. So we had a couple of tracks that landed on air, but they play them for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and then they'd stop, and then that's it, you know. But it wasn't enough to really sustain a project, you know. So the lady that I was working with, she, you know, her lead single, she already had on air a year before. So they're like, well, we're not going to play that. The thing was, I have this project here, and the project isn't really, there's no promotion going into it other than the stuff we're doing ourselves, like putting out music videos and stuff. But other than that, there was no promotion going into it. I had a friend of mine that I had met a long time ago, probably at the beginning of my music career in Atlanta, and he had been talking to me about, you know, radio, internet radio, digital radio is what I call it now. But he'd been talking to me about digital radio, like, yo, TJ, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, at the time, my personal life was hectic. I had just got divorced. I was a single dad. You know, I was working full time. And it's like, I just put out this music project, which I was pouring all my money into, this album project. And I'm like, I have no physical time to like really do anything else. So I had gotten to this point where I had got past that a little bit. Your baby mothers was gone. Both of them were in jail. It was stupid. It was stupid at that time. So I'm like, okay, this is not, and I'm a dad too. So I was like, yo, this is kind of crazy, man. So I said, so I'd gotten to the point where that dissipated a little bit and things weren't as crazy, and the point where, you know, something had to happen. So I thought about this thing that my friend had been telling me probably for about a year. He'd been talking to me about radio. And I said, you know what? Let me look into radio, you know? And I started looking into radio, and then I started the building process of putting it together and all that other stuff and getting the project together, you know, getting the whole working systems, all that other stuff, and the testing, and okay, this is what I want to do, this is what I want to aim for, all that other stuff. And then the station came together. And then just over the course of time, we pushed the station. You know, when I started RadioSupa, I said I'm going to do this thing for 3 years at least, regardless of what happens. If this thing crashes, if nobody listens, if it's a failure, I'm going to do this for at least 3 years. And I felt like I needed to have that mindset because, you know, sometimes when you're working on stuff and it gets hectic, you stop. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Easy work. Yeah,
Definitely.
Yeah.
So I said, regardless of anything, that's my project. I'm working on this for at least 3 years.
Fire.
And then over the course of that 3 years, it started to build, and then we became a significant name here. And it's, you know, my aim was always like kind of an out-of-state aim to really aim for the nation and the world. It was always like that. And I started working on that, and then we started being able to touch these spots. A little segue from that story, and tell me to stop.
No, you're good.
No, you're good, man.
Good.
A little bit, a segue from that is I was working in New York before in major music industry. I'm working at this super big mastering studio. My career, my life has always put me between Arizona and New York. So I'm always going back and forth. So I'm working at this studio, and they're making a joke. Yo, TJ, you know what? Hey, you know, you guys came from AZ. You know, you guys got tumbleweeds out there. You guys ride horses. They're like cracking jokes. You know what I'm saying? But my thought process that I took from that is like, nobody knows where AZ is on the map unless you're connected to it. Like, okay, New Mexico, California, or something like that. But nobody knows where AZ is on the map. So being the biggest thing in AZ, I was like, well, that's like being the biggest thing in Idaho. Like, nobody cares unless you're in Idaho. You know what I'm saying? So my thought process was, I can't just be the biggest thing in AZ. I really have to be big to the world.
Yeah, for sure.
So when I started going into RadioSupa, I started to aim for the world.
Of course.
And I knew we were getting traction when I started to have the people from New York hit me in Phoenix to get on the air. Then I knew we were hitting it because a little while ago you guys were just making jokes.
You guys were clowning.
You know what I'm saying? And now you're calling to get on the air. So I knew that we were on to something. And then RadioSupa, it grew and it expanded, and you know, we did a lot of work with Live 365 in their first tenure, and I want to say they had about 550 hip hop stations on air, and like we were breaking so much ground, we were number 2.
Oh, that's
and that
crazy.
was the largest like digital radio server in the world. Like nobody else
time,
was sitting on 5,000 stations. You know what I mean? But they had that, and we were number 2 in hip hop. You know, so the buzz was crazy. We were getting a lot of phone calls and everything like that, and you know, things were going. You know what I mean? And then, you know, the advent of the Spotify and Apple iTunes, you know, Apple Music coming out. You know, it put some different ripples in there.
Yeah, because what year was this when you started?
We're talking leading up to, the station started in 2009, and we're talking up to probably 14, 15. When the advent of Spotify
was
and
that
Apple
Live
Music,
365? Okay, and because you were doing this when it wasn't really being done, like nobody was really like you said, in order to get on, you had to go to the stations, and beg them to play you on the midnight, late, and local hour or whatever.
That's it.
And nobody was hearing your stuff, or they were too drunk when they were listening to it. You know what I'm saying?
You get the phone call like, "Yo, I heard your song on the radio," but you never hear it yourself. And that's what it was with the tracks that we had. Like, "Oh, yo, I heard this on the radio," and it'd be like, I listened to the radio for a couple hours, I never hear it. So that was the situation, and we couldn't do that. You know what I'm saying? And now, you know, we've just like expanded and stuff like that in terms of radio. I mean, we still broadcast in a billion places. You know what I mean? But what I did also was I started to syndicate the actual physical show. The actual, you know, show, which was the Fortress show, as you know it. You know, but it's the Fortress / RadioSupa. RadioSupa show. So I started to syndicate that show, and that process probably started within the last 2 years. Just because in addition to the radio station being where it was, I also wanted to put us in as many places as I could put us.
For sure.
My thought was, I want to make sure that we're able to touch the world, that as many people can see us as can see us. So I started the syndication, and the syndication, it started, I didn't say anything until it got to 7 stations. Then it was like, okay, look, we're on 7 stations. Okay, that's big. But I really wanted to get to some astronomical place where it was like, nobody can really even say anything.
Right.
Not like anybody was saying anything anyway, but, I just want to make sure. So, we just added stations, and then, bam, then it was 20 stations we were on. You know what I mean? And some of these were iHeart stations. Some of them were FM stations. So this thing is starting to play. Then we expanded to 30. Then we expanded, like, currently we're at 78 radio stations.
Okay.
So the joint plays in Paris now.
So explain that process for people that don't know when you say syndication.
Yeah, the syndication is basically like, so we do our 2-hour show that airs live on RadioSupa Tuesday nights from 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock Pacific Standard Time.
Okay.
So after I do that show, I have deals now with 77 other radio stations that I send that show to the other radio stations.
Okay.
So the other radio stations will replay that show.
Fire.
In whatever time slot they want to play it in different states, in different countries, and all that other stuff. So now the show plays every single day. It plays in so many places. Like, literally, to find all the places, I would have to go through my emails and pull out the dates and times.
Right.
And it's fire. Playing, I say, for example, like, just to kind of give a general idea, the show is playing so much in so many places that I'm live on Tuesday from 7 to 9 at the exact same time. I'm live with my last week's show on another station.
That's fire.
That's how many stations.
That's
crazy. Playing at. So it's good. Yeah.
That's fire.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love
Beautiful.
Talk that.
Beautiful. I want to talk about Apple Music and Spotify though,
yes.
real quick. I want to go back to that because I want to know, has it hurt your what you're doing as far as your radio, or has it actually helped?
You know what? I would say it caused us to have to do things differently.
Okay.
I would say if we didn't make a change, then it would have hurt us. You know what I mean? But it caused us to have to think differently because the thing was, like, before Apple Music and Spotify, you got in the car and you had FM radio, or I don't know if Pandora was there or not. Whatever.
Right. It might have been right around there. Yeah.
But you had that. So you had to listen to what was on FM and you didn't want to. Like, I look at FM as like, and I'm sure with both of you, when you get in your car, I'm sure you turn on your radio and it plays something you want to hear. And I'm sure it's the same thing with you.
Right.
Like, you would rather pay money to listen to something other than FM radio than listen to FM radio for free.
Right.
It's almost like, well, I don't want Netflix. I'd rather watch, Channel 3 or something like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's where it was. So with the advent of the thing that we had with RadioSupa was we were able to play a mix of music and different things that you weren't hearing on FM. Indie artists, we were able to play B-side stuff that they weren't playing, that wasn't the major single. If we were in a bad musical period where everybody was like mumbling, for example, or something that you didn't want to hear, that you had another option when you plugged into RadioSupa. So that was a positive thing. And now with the advent of Spotify and Apple Music, what that did was that gave a user another choice. So the user's like, wait a second, okay, if I don't want to listen to FM, I can now pick my own playlist and play all the stuff I want to hear, the songs I want to hear. I don't have to listen to anything. So in terms of us being, in digital radio, it was like we were still a music choice, but maybe we played 2 songs you like and 2 songs you didn't. With Apple Music or Spotify, you just I can listen to listen to the 4 songs I want to listen to.
Yeah, you didn't have to burn a CD. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You wasn't taking an hour to put put the playlist together, right? Burn it.
Right. I'm tired of that playlist.
Then you gotta have your book of CDs.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
You gotta go to LimeWire and download some songs or something.
The whole nine.
Right.
Yeah.
So just like I said, so that initially it caused like a change in listenership, because now you can listen to whatever you want to listen to. You know what I'm saying? Your own playlist. So then that caused a change in listenership. But just like I said, we adapted to that when we syndicated.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah.
But I also feel like Apple Music and Spotify is almost FM radio in a sense anyways. Because who do they spotlight all the time? They spotlight all the big art. I mean, and there's nothing wrong with that. Right. But what's cool is, because you guys have 20 different shows, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yeah, it's about
okay.
right. Yeah.
I was like, man, you guys have like 20 different shows. which is cool because it gives you spotlights on different aspects of different,
right.
you know. And I always talk to Dre about this, and it's like, I wish there was something as far as like Apple Music and Spotify in the sense of, man, give me everything that dropped. I want everything that dropped.
Right.
Everything. Right. And it just does. It's just not the case.
It's not. Right.
You know, and that's why we go to places like, you know, RadioSupa, because, okay, I know for this block of 2 hours, I'm going to hear something I've never heard before.
Right.
And that is dope to have.
Yeah.
You know, it is. It really is, because I don't know, I get tired of hearing the same stuff over and over again, even though, yes, I have my go-tos just like everybody else does.
Yeah.
But it's nice to have choice.
Yeah.
Of 20 different shows that you could go listen to.
Right.
You know, and that's
thank
fire.
you for the feedback. You know what I mean? Because like when I'm on Apple Music or listening to that, I really am just listening to the playlist I put together. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like every once in a while, like, and when I say every once in a while, I might mean every 6 months, I might go and listen to one of their stations, and usually it's just playing something I really don't feel like listening to.
Exactly.
And every once in a while, I'll pick up oh wait, I hadn't heard that. That's interesting, and then I'll just add it to my playlist and find myself back in my playlist. But no, thank you. That's an interesting thought. That's an interesting thought, and I thank you for the feedback on that.
Sure, man.
Yeah, I don't think I ever get on Apple Music playlist. So I think the only time I do, if it's like we're at the pool or something like that, we go to my mom's, we go hang out over there, and you know the kids, everybody's swimming. I'm like, oh, let me put on 90s hits.
Yeah.
And let that run, because I know I'm gonna pretty much like damn near everything that's on there. You know what I'm saying? So take me back to when I was a kid. Cool, we'll run that for the next 3 hours, and I don't have to play with it. I don't have. To, I know it's all edited and blah blah blah.
Safe,
so it's got to be safe too. You know what
I
mean? So
it's weird. Algorithms and stuff like that for all these sites are just very weird and very interesting. I do not understand them. You know, and you know, because I every Saturday morning I look for new music, right? I just look for the drops, but sometimes there's drops in the new music section, but then there's no drops, or there will be drops in like a playlist,
right?
That's not in the new, and it's so frustrating, so infuriating, to listen, to try to find new stuff. And I think kind of going back to the RadioSupa, because I've been listening to it and I'm like, man, this is just dope just to have sitting there.
Beautiful.
Because like you're like, oh, who's this? And then you guys have an app on the phone, which I want to get to in a second here.
Yeah.
But that's fire because it's just right there, and it's like, I love it. So I want to talk about the app.
Yeah.
Like, what was the process of getting the app? What made you guys go, we got to get an app?
You know what? Okay. Okay, the app, like,
I'm ready for this.
It's essential today, as I think
for sure.
Today it's essential, but when we did it, it was more of, sometimes I would get a crazy idea, and he knows we've been in a group together. We get a crazy idea and say, I would say to my people that I work with all the time, I would say, yo, we're not radio pretty good. We're not radio like a little bit better than everybody else. Right. We're RadioSupa. So with the word super, we have to do things that are either difficult for other people or things other people can't do. You know what I mean?
Facts.
I would say that. So like my thought process is like, yo, wait a second, hold on. How can we break ground that may be ahead of everybody else? So you know what? Okay, cool. We need to get the app running. You know what I'm saying? How can we break more ground? How can we continue to like dazzle? How can we continue to like move forward? Oh, wait a second. Hold on. Oh, we're on Alexa. Alexa, start RadioSupa. Okay, playing RadioSupa.
Fire.
You know what I'm saying? So I would always try to do that, and even now we do that like with the celebrity every week, the kind of thing that I hold myself to, which is crazy, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
but
yeah.
The celebrity every week, or the amount of stations that we play on, I still try to like really rattle the bell and let people know, yo, you know what? We're working, we're aiming for the space on this, you know what I mean? And we're not just playing around. Like we're really going out of the park with this, you know what I mean? So that's kind of where my head was at. A lot of this started too because I was in the music industry at 19. I remember I worked with a really big mastering engineer, and at the time, I didn't even know how big he was. He was probably 21, 22, and he used to go to car shows, and we'd go to car shows with like Al B. Sure, and these are people like 3 years before I'm like watching on TV.
For sure.
And then now I'm in the studio, and they come in every day.
Right.
Like Big comes in every day. Mariah comes in every day. Boyz II Men every day. So it's like I was just watching you guys on TV, and now I'm in it. You know what I'm saying? I'm in it. Yeah. So it's like, but I think that being in music at that era kind of put me in this funny place, because now in my life I try to replicate the feeling that I had when I was in that at that time. And even though it's all imaginary and it really doesn't mean anything, but that's the feeling I try to replicate. Like, yo, wait a second, this is music industry, this is what it felt like, this is what it was, so let me recreate that feeling over and over again. You know, so even with the things we do, it's like it can't just be cool for Broadway. It can't just be cool for, it's got to be cool for New York. We got to knock it out the park for there. We got to be in London. We got to be all over the place. So that's where the thought process, and that's where my head's at.
Cool. When did you start the app?
The app, I want to say 2016 is when the app dropped.
Okay, so still.
Yeah. So we were still pretty early on the app, and Alexa came in 2019, I want to say. Yeah. That's fire. Definitely.
That's fire. I'm gonna let you get your water. So go ahead. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead.
I'm good.
Let's talk about one of the other kind of flagship shows. Obviously, you have a ton. Yeah. You have a ton of different shows that don't involve you. Other people run them. That are fire. But you're here, so we're gonna talk about the other one that you're heavily involved in. Okay. Which is the Rock the Mic Show.
Yes, Rock the Mic Show.
Let's talk about what it is.
Yes.
How you started it. Yes. What day did you wake up and said, "Oh, that's what we're doing now"? Because I know that's what it was.
Right. It was something. It was something. It was
probably
mid
interview. You were like, "Oh, we got to do that."
Right. Okay. Right. Yo, so the Rock the Mic Show, it has a really interesting genesis and then a beginning, man. The show really started by accident. Okay. So the genesis of this show, it was a hectic time for the radio, for working on the radio. I remember I was getting a phone call from a friend of mine, familiar with Kwan. He's calling me from California, and I'm just telling the story just like it is. He knows what's up. I've told him before. But he's calling me from California, and he's like, "Yo, TJ, I'm in California. I've been telling people about the radio. I'm at work. I'm stressed. Like, yo, I'm really trying to make sure I can move forward and get this thing together." He's calling me from California. "I've been telling people about this supervision thing and blah 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 blah." And I'm like, "Yo, why are you telling people about stuff that doesn't exist yet?" You know what I'm saying? Like, why are we going there? You know, like, don't talk about stuff that's not real. You know? Okay. And anyways, then it led into its supervision, which was before the Rock Show. It ended up being a web television station.
That's right.
So after that segment, I was there, and I was in this thought process, because that station couldn't continue at the time, because I feel like we were ahead of technology. Like, we were creating a web television station that was supposed to run programming when there wasn't an algorithm like available to the customers to make those algorithms run by themselves. And I'll say it like with a radio, you can say from this to this, I want this music to play at this time and these specific songs in whatever order. There was no algorithm to make video play.
Yeah, because this is like kind of pre-YouTube explosion.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
This is it. So, and I would even say to the point where when I was doing supervision, this is leading into Rock the Mic Show. Right. When I did supervision before that, shows would have to run at certain times. There would literally be times where I was driving on the freeway with a laptop open with internet inside the car, starting a show on the freeway while I was driving. You know what I'm saying? Because it had to start at a certain time. So I was like, okay, this can't continue. So moving forward, I was like, okay, what about a television show? But I want to aim this for, and I'm glad it went the direction it went, but I want to aim, my initial aim was I'm going to make this for television. Like, I don't want to do it on the web, because I really want to hit television, which, just like I said, I'm glad it went the direction it went. But so my thought process was that. So I was sitting on this idea for about 1.5 years before I even launched it. Okay. I got a phone call from a friend of mine, and he's like, yo, TJ, he already had a television show running. In my head, I was thinking, okay, if I do some work with him, you know what I mean, I can probably get this show running on a lot of networks, because I had done an episode on their show, and their show popped up in Fox. So I'm on the phone with a friend of mine, and she's like, I'm watching you on Fox right now, and you're on TV in New York, you know. Okay. So I was like, that was my thought. So I'm like, okay, cool. So he called me up. He's like, yo, I already have the other show running on regular networks, but I want to start like something like digital, web wise. Okay. And I said, okay, cool. So let's do that. So he hit me up, and I came over there, and we talked about it a little bit. And then, like, you know, I went back, and he told me the name. He's like, I have this idea for this name, and he told me the name. And I thought that was, I say, oh, okay, cool. I don't love it, I don't hate it, or anything like that. And I don't want to say the name, but no, I'll say the name. He showed me this name, and the name of the show was like Beats of Fire or something like that, or Bars of Fire, something like that. Bars of Fire. And I said, okay. So I left the studio on that weekend, and then my aunt passed away. I left the studio. My aunt passed away. We're so we scheduled a trip really quick to Philly, where they're doing the burial service and everything like that. He calls me like right before I leave, like, yo, I'm ready to start this show, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, I gotta fly out of town, and then when I come back, we'll do this. So I fly out of town, do the funeral, come back. He talks to me on Wednesday, yo, I'm trying to start the show this weekend. So I'm like, okay. So between the Wednesday and the weekend, we prepped everything, all the videos we were going to do on the first episode, put the show together. I forgot the name of his show. So he had initially said Bars of Fire. I forgot it and said Rock the Mic Show. Wow. So
that's dope though. That's cool, man.
So then
that's crazy.
I went and got the logo done for the Rock Show, and got the whole show done, locked the social medias down, bought the website, all that other stuff. And then I get there, and it's like, oh, okay, well, I forgot the name was, so this is the new name. And it worked out well, because, you know, then when I had the show, it was my show, right? You know, and I owned every aspect of the show, and I got to thank God for that, because that's the second time that I did that something stopped me from naming something the wrong name. Mm-hmm. You know, it was going to happen with RadioSupa, but luckily it didn't happen, and I called it RadioSupa. You know what I'm saying? So, and that's what it was. So it worked out. So then the Rock Show started, and we started shooting on the web, and then like things weren't working smoothly the way that I needed them to work. So I just said, okay, I'm going to step away and just shoot the show myself. So then I just started shooting the show myself, and then of course more of the ideas came in. Yo, okay, how can we do this? Let's just think crazy. You know, like when I set RadioSupa up, I set it up, and it sounds crazy, but I set it up to be mobile. I set it up to be a mobile because I would look at the FM stations, and the FM stations could go somewhere and broadcast from there. Mm-hmm. Right. So when I set up RadioSupa, you know, we'd be at festivals, we'd be all over the place mobile. We'd be set up broadcasting from, and then none of the other stations could do that. So that was just a flex for us. Like, yeah, we did that. So then when I set the Rock Show up, I set the Rock Show up as a mobile television show. So the Rock Show literally can just go anywhere. We can broadcast anywhere. And we have our own internet, so we floating internet, so we can broadcast the show from anywhere. The whole setup is mobile. We can set up a whole television show. We're bouncing angles, you know what I'm saying? Flying videos in, flying videos out. The whole thing is shot live, and everything is straight. So that's what we did with the Rock Show, and you know, just like I said at the beginning, we just built it and continued to build. You know what I mean?
Fire. So that the story of the title of the show.
That is dude, I love that.
I know some of the stuff I know. That one I didn't know. That's crazy.
Yeah, that happened.
Welcome, you know, welcome to the Rock the Mic Show.
Right. Another interesting thing. Another interesting thing too that happened with the Rock Show was, you know, there was when we were shooting the Fortress way back. I remember I bought this little camera for Macintosh, because I'm thinking like way back. I'm like, you know, I like shooting a Fortress, and I'm gonna get. So I bought this little retarded camera. You could put it about 10 feet away and it would work and the battery would run out halfway through the show or something like that.
Right.
You have to plug it in. But nonetheless, it was like the only Bluetooth camera available for the Mac. It was like 390p. It was terrible.
Right.
But nonetheless, it was cute, so I put this over there. So I had this little piece of technology sitting there, and this was maybe 2011, 2010, I don't know, whatever. So I'm using that. So this thing is outdated, of course, now, and it's about 2017, and I'm working on a rock show, and I had just left, and I'm up late one night, and I'm like, yo, let me grab this little camera. So I grab this little camera, and I start trying to plug it in just to see if it'll work. I don't even need it anymore. I got, whatever. I'm plugging it in. I got an upgraded camera. I'm plugging it in. It's not working and stuff. So I'm like, I probably need to download some new software. So I go online and start looking for the software for this camera company that I was using. And of course, the software for the camera didn't work anymore. I mean, there was no updates. It was like, this thing is obsolete. But that same company made software that allowed you to fly music videos and fly other things in. So while I was playing with this camera, I stumbled on the first way we were able to do the Rock the Mic show by trying to make this little stupid camera work. Yeah. So
what a happy accident that is.
It was great. This was great.
Yeah, that pot of luck that you got at your house, I'm gonna need a little bag of that. That's crazy.
It's like, I remember I was like two hours playing around with this little camera, and then I'm like, wait a second, you guys made this, and I'm like, let me try this, and I'm like, oh wait, that's fresh. Yeah, so it worked. It worked out good. Worked out good.
Another thing, lately I've been seeing you via social media, and first, before I get into that, I'm so proud of you.
Thank you, sir. I don't know,
because we had a conversation. I want to say 2 months ago via text, and I said, TJ, we got to see more of you. And I swear after that you went crazy. I'm not taking the credit. But I'm just saying I appreciate that, because after that I was like, yo, the people got to see you. We see the RadioSupa stuff. Where are you? And you went crazy after that. So shout out to you. I appreciate that.
Big salute.
I don't know if the algorithm changed in my phone. Maybe I said something in my phone algorithm was like, oh, you like that? Okay, we'll put that in there for you. But lately I've been seeing you kind of out and about working with a lot of different artists on video shoots. Just some different stuff. Kind of get into what you're doing now. I know recently you were at a video shoot, right?
I
want to say a few days ago or last week.
I was. Let me think. It's been a lot of stuff happening. We were at a video shoot for my man Nino Bless. We just shot his music video. When the video drops, you guys will see it. It's beautiful. We're in there. I mean, you'll understand it's us when you see the video. I don't want to get into too much detail because it was a really interesting video, but we just did that music video. We've been popping up probably at a lot of listening parties. We just, there's been a label that I've been closely related to that I'm watching them sign artists and throw out signing deals, which has been a beautiful situation. It's been a lot of different things happening, and there's still more happening. There's more stuff that I can't even get into because it hasn't happened yet. You know what I mean? But it's a lot of things. But shout out to Stardom 101 magazine. Big salute out to them. I won't go any further than that. You know what I mean? But I mean, it's been that. There's some photo shoots we did, which I still can't even go into detail. I can't even drop the photos yet. But it's been a lot of different things happening. A lot of different stuff happening. The schedule is just nuts. I've been trying to make sure that, we continue to grow, continue to move around and stuff like that, and really continue to break ground. So that's kind of where my head's at.
Cool. I have a question. There's 20 different shows you guys got. If somebody who's new, listening, watching this, and has never tuned in, what would you suggest they would tune in for? What would be the show that you say, check this one out? It could be yours, it could be somebody else's. I'm sure they're all fire. You know what I'm saying? But just as an introductory to RadioSupa, what would you say, hey man, check this one out?
outside of the Tuesday Fortress show, I always felt like that's a flagship. But outside of the Tuesday Fortress show, I feel like some of the standout shows. We got one from my man Ryan V. He runs out of New
I was
York.
just listening to that.
Yeah, he has a lot of beautiful guests on, and he had a lot of beautiful guests on all the time. And COVID has affected a lot of his guests. I know his show was produced by Eric Sermon. You know what I mean? Like
Fire.
They were shooting at an Eric Sermon studio before, but he as a regular guest has Mr. Cheeks as part of the show. Boys.
Yep.
He's on that show. That's another flagship show. Rampage from Flip Mode Squad, Busta Rhymes' cousin. Yeah. He does a mix on Monday nights. Golly, so many different shows. I would say West Cap Radio. Yeah, definitely. West Cap Radio Fridays also. I would say outside, and I mean a rock show, is video, where we really that kind of brought back, that kind of for me was like the MTV, rap. That's kind of what it gave me. And that's the kind of feeling that I try to recreate with that particular show. So those are the standout shows, and if I'm missing one, I'm sorry. There's a lot of shows in the station.
Oh yeah, and like I said, I've been really listening, diving in, and really loving the shows and stuff.
Thank you.
I will say this though, it's hard to do you guys have like something you could go back and listen to,
like a previous
show that you can
for the Fortress and for the Fortress, for the rock show, and DN3 does a show on Fridays, the Lunchbox Mix.
Yeah.
So there's a section on the page, I think it's previous shows or something like that. At the top, the link is there, and if you click on that, it'll let you listen to any of the Fortress shows for, I want to say, the last 8 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So, and there's a lot of celebrity interviews in those too. We've done. Golly, I'm not even going to do it justice and forget.
No. Don't even say
anybody.
Don't say anybody's name.
Yeah, it's gonna
get yourself in trouble.
Right. We did Flavor Flav. We did Cassidy.
I remember that.
MC Light. Golly,
I remember
we did
that.
Oaktown 357.
Yeah.
Razcast, Crooked Eye. We just did them recently.
Yeah.
Golly,
too many to count.
It's too many people.
Right.
But it's been Christopher Williams. That was a great one.
Yeah.
Positive K. So, so all of those interviews are up there. All the Rock the Mic show, television show interviews are up there. And DN3, his Lunchbox mixes should be available too. The other shows are from a lot of our affiliates, so we don't have like access on the station to their previous shows, but some of them do a lot of good shows. DJ Big Lou on Wednesdays also has a really big show. If you like that music, he had a beautiful Big Pun mix, which I downloaded and just listened to forever.
Okay,
nice,
yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
You kind of had mentioned COVID, and obviously this last year and a half almost was crazy. It was different. It was a struggle for everybody in a multitude of ways, some more than others. How in the beginning of that and really through it all, how did you maneuver through everything? Obviously you had everything set up anyways, but how did you maneuver? Because now it's going to be hard to get guests. Now we got to do this, we got to do that, we got to make stay safe. How did you maneuver through that?
Yeah, so for us, and COVID, it devastated a lot of people. So condolences for not even for the people who just passed away, but just for any of the businesses or some of your favorite restaurants that disappeared. It's terrible for them. Some people, I was lucky to be able to capitalize during COVID. Because a lot of my setup was already set up in a way that I say when I set up RadioSupa, and you see where we're at doing the podcast, I set up RadioSupa in a way that if no advertising came in, if no money came in, if nothing came in, RadioSupa was going to be fine. And I set it up purposely because at the time I'd been seeing a lot of people, we got this, and then we got this, and then we're going to put our radio station here, and we're going to sell these CDs, and then the CDs don't sell, and the stuff closes, then the radio station goes off the air. So I set up RadioSupa really to be prooful of that, where it's going to run regardless if nothing happens, it'll run, and it's going to run if everything happens. It's all gravy. So when COVID came, we were already pretty much set up We did a lot of interviews out of state. We really more focused on out of state interviews. But right before COVID happened, probably in the year before COVID happened, we had really switched over to doing celebrities every week anyway. So once we started doing that, most of the people that were calling from out of state.
Got you.
So it worked out great for us because we were able to continue to capitalize on that. So I'd say 90 plus, 95, 96% of the interviews that come through RadioSupa, they're calling from somewhere else.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So so that worked out through the COVID situation. It helped us, just like I said, we were able to really capitalize during that time period. You know, we were set up in a way that situation wouldn't have terribly affected us too.
Okay. So you guys, and we lucked out too, because we were kind of in the same boat. We started October of 2019.
November,
October, November, we kind of got started. Started the video in February, and it was like at first it was tough because we had like 4 or 5 interviews lined up.
Okay.
At that point.
Yeah.
And we were set. We were like, yo, we about to go crazy. Boom. And we could have went the Zoom route.
Yeah.
But we always talked about it. It was like, it's just something better about having somebody in the building.
It is.
Yeah.
Talking to them face to face. You know, it's just a better feeling. And so we were like, okay, let's hold off. But then we really gained a lot of traction. Obviously all the social injustice issues and stuff like that, and mental health stuff. So we were able to tap into a lot of that and talk about our experiences and all that. And it worked. And then it was like,
you got to take those chances. You got to take those and maneuver around.
We changed the show, I want to say like five times within like 3 months. It was like, we're going to get rid of this. We're going to add this. We're going to put this here.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we got rid of this, but now this is another show. We got What You Heard reviews now. So yeah, it was kind of the same for us. That's why I wanted to ask, because I don't know how, and I don't think we really asked that question a lot. I think a lot of people, some people just kind of bring it up, but it was crazy.
That's a good question, and you know what? I deal with that on the rock show. Deal with that on the rock show, and with the rock show it was more difficult because I never really wanted to go the Zoom route. I wanted it to be like, yo, you have to be in house for this show. You know, and there were shows I literally had to, and I prepped for it just because you go through ups and downs when you're dealing with running something, and it's just
for sure.
You know what I mean? You go through ups and downs. So I had always prepped and been prepared for, okay, like on the radio, it was like, okay, if nobody else is here, if my co-host doesn't come through, I need to be prepared to do a 2-hour segment alone
by myself.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I prepped for that with the radio, but with a rock show, I wasn't necessarily as prepped for it. So I would literally have to start to prep. I would say I had to hone that during the COVID situation, just because there was less guests that were available. You don't want to invite 1,000 people to your house.
Of course.
I didn't want to go with the Zoom route just because I really wanted the show to look crisp, and it looked crisp with somebody else on there. And I don't know that I didn't want it to look like, I know we've had to downgrade to, for the internet age and just going from, but I never wanted it to look like I'm just like shooting from my cell phone or something like that. I really wanted it to look like a television show. That was the whole idea from the beginning. So I didn't want to just put the Zoom up. If you can be here, you can be here. If you can't be here, then we'll do you on the radio.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I feel you though. That's a struggle.
Yeah.
That was So obviously lately it's been a lot better, and things are opening up and all that. But yeah, that was. I mean, we were like, okay, well, the next 4 weeks, what
are we doing?
Right.
I mean, and there was days literally he would show up, Zeke would pull up, and we would sit there for 2 hours and be like, I mean, sometimes we would literally sit down, hit record, and be like, let's just see what happens.
Yeah.
And
it's a great learning lesson, though. I would never,
It's go ahead.
The path. Everybody has right a vision in mind. That vision never goes, I don't think, exactly the way you want it to go.
Right.
But I think it's a blessing though, because I think it's important to go through certain hurdles.
Yes.
And jump and get over certain things. things you didn't even think about
right.
will present itself.
Yeah.
And you gotta jump over that hurdle.
Yeah.
You know,
every time.
And we've had the discussion many times, which I'm sure you've gone through a bunch too, you know, is, you know, it prepared us in a way that we were not sure we would have even done well at.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And it's, you know, but I gladly accept those struggles. Yeah. You know, even though they suck and you don't want to do it.
They hurt
you
while
know,
you're doing them. You're sad. You know, you're like, I wonder how this is gonna turn. You know,
right? Yeah.
But those are the things that build you, and those even add to you when you have somebody else later. Just being able to deal with those situations, because sometimes people don't show up. Sometimes things happen. They'll cancel at the last minute. I've been there sometimes, and then somebody I'm waiting for the phone call and they fell asleep and they were supposed to come in, or I've been on the rock show and then somebody's like, okay, I'm late, and I'm like, okay, well the show is going on, and then they get there at the end of the show and then it's like, oh well, the show's over. Okay, well, can I reschedule? And then you don't hit them back, you know what I mean?
Right.
But that just happens. But those things do build you. They build you because those are the things you have to go through doing this, you know.
Yeah,
for
sure.
Right. Yeah, for sure. That's definitely that building process is crazy.
Right.
You kind of had mentioned something too about the cell phones. I did want to ask you about this because another part of kind of what we went through, and then obviously I was there with you early. You know what I'm saying? So I saw a lot of that, and kind of had deja vu while we've been doing what we've been doing.
Right.
Was like when we started. It wasn't, people were using their cell phones and stuff, but podcast shows weren't being filmed unless they were like Joe Rogan, Charlemagne the God, Joe Budden, like all the major ones, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now it's crazy because I actually have a good friend of mine who's trying to get into podcasting and reached out for some advice, and I literally went to the store with him, got a couple things or whatever. And I was like, yo, you don't need to, you got your phone? It's just going to be you?
Right.
Okay, go get a ring light.
Yeah.
Find a room.
And set it up.
Call it a day.
Right.
Oh, you need a microphone? No. You don't need to spend 200, 300, 400. No, you get the one that actually plugs right. You don't need an interface. What is your thoughts on that? Because obviously, we come from a little bit older school way of thinking, like, interface, and we're used to quality of stuff too, but now it's like they got the USB microphones are blue microphone, they're blues. That's it's a blue microphone that plugs right into the computer, you know what I mean? What's your thought process on that?
I say like this. I say that a ninja can do more with a sword than a civilian can do with a gun. You know what I mean? So my thought is that even though, like, and I know people think about it like, I don't have a bunch of equipment, so I can't do that. And I don't think it's necessarily you need a bunch of equipment to do that. I think it's more of, what can you do with the equipment that you have?
Facts.
That's what I feel like. I feel like it's, you have an idea and you want to execute the idea and you get really creative. You can probably create whatever you need to create with items that are already inside of your living space. You know what I mean?
Facts.
Really. So it's really just, it's not more about, and of course, if you're a ninja with great equipment, then you're going to make something beautiful. You know what I mean? But if you're an amateur with great equipment, you just have a bunch of equipment, and that's not necessarily meaning you're going to make something great. So I would say, think about what you want to do, and then think about the way to execute that, and then get the pieces necessary to execute what you want to execute. So don't necessarily focus on, I need a bunch of equipment. Let the need for the equipment come with wanting to execute the idea.
I think
do it too.
Right.
I think the people that get stuck the most is people that don't even turn on the microphone or the camera. They have the idea, they go through that process, and then they go, well, I don't know how to do it, and then they never turn it on, and that stuff is sitting there, and it's like, at least turn it on and see what happens and what comes out. I mean, I told him, I think 5 years ago, I was like, dude, podcast. Right. Let's do a podcast. He's like, what's a podcast? Basically, what's a podcast? And I'm like, dude, go look up a podcast. You know, I said, we're on the phone for 2 hours. Yeah. That's a podcast.
Yeah, I was in Cali at the time. Yeah.
You know, and I was in, but then he got here and immediately, I think within a couple months of you being here,
within like a month, we hit the ground running,
and we started recording.
Yeah.
Now, there is stuff we didn't even use. Right. You know what I'm saying?
This is how crazy it was. We started recording at his spot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was taking the iMac because we didn't have a laptop.
iMac,
I literally was wrapping the iMac with like sheets and towels.
Yeah.
Throwing it in the back.
Yeah.
Interface, microphone, everything, showing up to his house, plugging it in there. Okay, got to take it back home because I got to go home and edit it.
Yeah.
You know, and then, you know, we got the house and things changed. And so,
but
it was crazy, you know.
Yeah.
And then when we started filming, we had a camera from like no joke back when we were performing.
Wow. Yeah. Way back.
Like you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was like maybe 720. I don't even think it was 720. I think it was like 480 or something.
Yeah, maybe.
That, bro. It was trash.
Yeah.
You know, so but like you said, as you go along, get the stuff that makes sense. Don't just go grab a bunch of stuff. Like we got one camera.
Right.
Okay, now we're gonna have people on. Let's go get a couple more.
Right.
You know, so I agree with that wholeheartedly.
And you guys know, like, you gotta try things. You gotta sometimes you gotta just turn something on and play around and know that it's gonna mess up. There's a page that I have on Facebook that's private that I use just to test broadcasting to make sure it's gonna pop up. You know, I did it years ago. I haven't used it recently, but you know, like, you just have to try things. You know, like so many of the things that I bumped into to move forward were literally those nights where I was sitting in front of the computer for like I said with the camera, you know, I'm sitting in front of the computer for 2 hours or sitting up. It's 1-2 o'clock in the morning. You know, if I was dating somebody, they were up sleep and I was downstairs just sitting there working on some stupid crazy idea, and then it worked. You know what I mean? So those, and you guys know, you guys are engineers, you know what I'm saying? So you know, this isn't, why isn't this sound going through? Why isn't this sound? And then you touch something or hit a button and it opens it up and the path opens up and then you got sound. You know? And it's like, so.
What do you got? Anything? I know you said you got a bunch of stuff. Yeah. Anything major that you can talk about that's coming out pretty recently that you're working on?
Let's see here. There's a mixtape that's dropping that I'm hosting. Big salute out to Jack the Mac, Jackie Joulet.
Okay.
I got a mixtape with her coming out. There's a musical project that I'm working on with DN3, which will be coming out after. I can't even talk about the ID on it because once I say it, it's out there, and then everybody else
we know that.
On it. So, but that's coming with DN3 and a cat I do some work with in California named Chris Nonsense. So big salute out to them. Let me think here. There was a television show I just popped up on, Valley of the Artist. I was a special guest judge. I'm assuming that should be dropping sometime soon. Okay. So that's coming out. Let's see. Those are the things offhand that I know I can talk about.
Okay.
Offhand, that I know I can talk about. There's still a couple other things that I know
due to legal issues.
Yeah.
Right. Well, stay tuned. You know, stay tuned. You know,
right.
You know, due to the paperwork, you know, you cannot advertise that at this time.
Right. Right. But it's good. It's good. There's definitely a lot of other things floating around.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And I know, you know, me and you talk constantly, and you know, now that everything's kind of opened up, I know we'll probably be doing a lot more, and you know, in connection with each other. So shout out to 20. I don't know if you saw, I had 20 on recently. I had J20 on recently.
Oh, big salute out to J20. I love that dude.
Yeah, so we're working with him on something crazy.
Dude. Yeah.
So I might have to, you know what I mean, just keep your phone open.
Of course.
I might have to call you.
Yeah, definitely give me a call.
You know what I'm saying? You might have to dust some things off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I know I gotta dust some things off.
Right.
Dusty.
Right. Yeah, Dre is beautiful working on with music projects, man. We did a lot of projects. I wish we never stopped doing projects and stuff like that. You know what I mean? But Yeah, it was always beautiful doing work with Dre, man.
Appreciate
Excellent engineer, all that other stuff. Always made everything sound really crisp, man.
Thank you.
So yeah, it was good stuff.
Well, what's crazy is I feel like what? It's I said this when you walked in the door.
Yeah.
I seriously mean this. I feel like I've known you for 11 years. Excellent. I know that sounds really bizarre, but
okay, yeah.
What he talks about, your guys' everything you guys did in the past and the stories, and I love listening to him, and it's just like, even when we first met, we were going to school together, TJ Supa, and then you talking about you starting that. I remember hearing you starting that. And I feel like I'm a proud, of you doing that, because it's like crazy that I remember when you were getting that started, and I'm like super proud of where you've come from,
Yeah.
It's just a huge achievement, something I look up to,
For sure.
Both of us, and aspire, to, okay, he's doing this, it's freaking, it's just awesome. Great. And I just really appreciate you coming on, man, and hanging out with us for a little bit, man.
And it's been, just like I said, man, it's been beautiful. Golly, it's been beautiful. It's been a long time, man. We're in our 12th year now, so if I'm not incorrect, I want to say, and not just like I mentioned earlier, we don't even measure it like this, but if I'm not incorrect, I believe we're the longest consistently running digital radio station in the history of the state. That's not like maybe connected to like independent, you know what I'm saying? Right. I don't know anybody else that was running 12 years ago and is still running now. What I mean? Yeah. I don't know anybody else that was doing that. You know what I mean? So it's been great, man. We've had a lot of highlights. Just like I said, number 2 on Live 365. We hit 1 million streams back in it was 2000. I don't know, 2014, 2013, whatever. It was like 2013, and we hit 2 million streams. Now it's like I can't even count it anymore. We had a guy post today on a response to one of my pictures that I posted, and he was like, good job on getting 1 million streams in Texas. And that was today, so I'm guessing that's just through that channel or something, but I can't even count it anymore. It's on 78 stations. Crazy. Some of the stations have 4 or 5 million listeners. It's just one station.
Their own little,
you know what I'm saying? And it's 78 of them, so I can't even count it anymore. I can't even count, but awesome. It's beautiful.
Talking.
Yeah, beautiful.
Humbly. What's the do? Respectfully. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Respectfully.
Yeah.
Well, TJ,
I'm glad to be here.
Thank you for coming through.
Definitely.
RadioSupa.com.
Yeah, RadioSupa.com. Yeah. Make sure you guys tune in to all the shows, but definitely tune in to the Fortress 7 to 9 every Tuesday.
Right.
Rock the Mic Show. Is it rockthemicshow.com?
Rockthemicshow.com.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
It'll take you to where you need to go. Yep. Definitely.
Tune into that. Like you said, kind of the Yo MTV raps of the present day. And even better, man. I want to say even better than that. So make sure you guys tune in.
Yeah.
And keep supporting.
Definitely. Can I give a shout out to my team?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Get it out.
Where big salute out to Radio Supa, of course, my whole squadron. Follow me across the board at TJ Supa or at Radio Supa, just like that. Big salute out to Miss Lisa Arenas. She's excellent. Professor X, DJ DN3. Chucky Red, Momo de France, you know what I'm saying? My whole team, you know what I'm saying? So it's beautiful. Thank you guys for having me.
No, thanks
for coming on, man.
You guys are doing work, man. It's beautiful to see.
And come back anytime.
Yeah, we're going to definitely have you back on for sure.
Definitely.
Anyways, you guys stay safe and you guys stay positive out there.
And as always, this is The Gray Space. Peace.